The first question is from Frédéric Daigle. La première question est de Frédéric Daigle. Vas-y, Frédéric.
Mon micro, ça va aller mieux avec mon micro. Bonjour à vous deux. Thanks for your time this afternoon. Danny, peut-être que c'est toi qui peux répondre à celle-là. Qu'est-ce que vous recherchez à ce combine-là et est-ce que c'est un peu la dernière occasion pour ces joueurs-là de changer leur place sur votre liste?
Herb, you're muted. OK.
Pardon, désolé. Comme tu es déjà au courant, Frédéric, la moitié de notre roster est composée par des Canadiens. On parle de 21 Canadiens qui s'habillent chaque match sur un roster de 45. Alors, le contenu canadien est très important. Je pense que c'est attaché à notre succès l'année passée, la contribution de nos Canadiens, l'impact qu'ils ont eu pendant l'année longue. Est-ce que le Combine va changer l'ordre dans mes yeux? Je pense pas. Je pense que ça peut-être plutôt confirmer certaines choses. Moi, c'est plutôt les entrevues que je suis vraiment curieux de savoir comment ça va se dérouler quand j'ai eu la chance de m'asseoir avec les joueurs et d'échanger avec eux. J'aimerais aussi voir leur langage corporel sur le terrain, comment ils gèrent l'information qu'ils vont être obligés de suivre, que ce soit par des entraîneurs ou d'autres mondes. Puis, comment ils vont réagir après qu'ils perdent une situation de genre de un one-on-one, puis comment ils vont réagir à un tel scénario. Mais je pense qu'on a déjà vu presque 3-4 ans de films sur des joueurs-là. Il y a d'autres entrevues qui vont suivre après le Combine, puis ça devrait nous donner une meilleure idée le 30 avril quand ça va être l'heure de choisir les joueurs pendant le repêchage.
Merci. One follow-up maybe for Jason. Anything in particular you wish to hear from those players in those interviews? I know that the football aspects is very important to you, but also the way people fits in a group and the kind of culture you want to bring within the club. So what are you looking for with those interviews?
Yeah, I just look to see how well they communicate, and if they can verbalize, their feelings on football and how passionate they are for it in the game and what's important to them more than anything. I mean, it's hard in a 15-minute interview to get everything out of them, but you like to see how they react to an unfamiliar situation and deal with it. And then, like I said, try to find their passion for football and what it's all about for them.
Thank you so much, guys.
Merci, Frédéric. The next question is from Candid Frank. Please go ahead, Frank.
Gentlemen, thanks for doing this. I know, Danny, you answered a little bit of this in French, so I apologize. I didn't understand completely. But the question for me is the Tyson Philpott situation last year. A rookie goes into the Grey Cup and becomes a large factor. He's not an anomaly. This is becoming more and more normal where Canadian Football League teams are drafting players with the intent of using them, not sitting there, they're ready to play. Is that my imagination, or in your own words, is there any truth to that and why that's important?
Well, it's definitely not your imagination. There's some strong truth behind that statement. And again, it's a 45-man roster. 21 are composed of Canadians. So the Canadian content is extremely important. As much as you mentioned Philpott, we can talk about Luol Huguat, we can talk about Cote, we can talk about Lestage, we can talk about Dequoy. There's just so many of them, and that are going to impact your football team. So this combine is as important as any All-Star game that I traveled to in the month of January south of the border. So we've invested some resources in it. We're going to have our scouts up here with our coaches, and we're going to make sure that we're going to do our due deal with these kids. We've already seen what they're capable of doing because there's obviously 3-4 years of a body of work as far as film is concerned. Some things are going to be confirmed maybe over the weekend. We're here just to see if they fit and who we are as far as our DNA is concerned. And make sure they fit the culture that we've instilled in this recipe that we've got before us here, and knowing full well that after we go back home, there's going to be extensive interviews with these candidates, and when the 30th of April rolls around, then we want to make sure that we're picking the right ones that fit who we are as an organization.
As a former player and now coach, and an experienced CFL participant in both those, and for a protracted period, speak to us about how Canadians have impacted on your teams as a teammate, as a coach over the past years.
Well, obviously, I mean, we live in Canada, and the Canadian Football League, the majority of it is Canadians, and that's what's great about it. My relationships with the Canadians up here has been great. I mean, whether they're coaching with me now or I've coached with or played with, obviously been a ton of relationships established, and you realize real quickly once you get up here how good a football there is up here because of the Canadian content that we have, which I think is just continuing to get better each and every year. They impact our league, our teams tremendously. And you just said Tyson Philpott. I mean, I don't know if there's a bigger catch last year that was made at the end of the year than that catch by a Canadian. So, it's amazing the impact, they continue to have on the game up here. And we always say, I mean, you want to have as strong a Canadian talent as possible, as deep as Canadian talent as possible. That's what makes our league special. That's what makes our teams special at the end of the year. The great ones generally have strong Canadian talent. And not only that, strong coaches as well. There's a lot of Canadian coaches up here that have impacted the game as coaches, as GMs, and presidents and whatnot. So, the impact of the Canadians on this game is tremendous.
Thank you for your answers, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Next question is from Dan Ralph. Please go ahead, Dan.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Danny, for you, if I may, please. Can a prospect really enhance his draft eligibility with a good performance here? And conversely, can a top-notch prospect hurt his eligibility with a bad performance? How much weight do you put on those?
The weight that I put on is very minimal. Listen, we were just talking about it not too long ago. We were talking about Delaire last year that went to the Combine in Edmonton, and I'm going to attempt to say it wasn't his best showing, okay? You would have walked away from that weekend, and chances are he would have dropped on your board. But there's a body of work there. There's 3 years. There's additional interviews that take place. So there's a lot of things that can happen here over the next 2 or 3 days that you're not going to necessarily get an accurate reading of the individual. So you have to be careful. I think for someone like myself, it's more along the lines, is this guy going to be a good fit for who we are? Just the way he handles himself, his body language, how he takes to coaching, just how his interactions with his colleagues, with his teammates on the field. That's some of the stuff that I'm going to take a look at. The rest, we've got sufficient enough information that I don't think it's going to alter our decision process moving forward.
Yeah, and I guess conversely, if you're looking at a prospect, you think he's good and he tests well, it just more reaffirms, right?
Correct. That's exactly right.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Dan. Once again, if you have a question, please use the raise hand function. Encore une fois, si vous avez une question, veuillez utiliser la fonction lever la main. La prochaine question est de Jean-François Théotonio. Vas-y, Jean-François.
Salut, bonjour. La question est pour Danny. J'ai vu dans la liste, il y a environ une vingtaine de joueurs du Québec qui vont participer à ce combine-là. Est-ce que ces joueurs-là, je ne veux pas dire, est-ce qu'ils ont une longueur d'avance? Je ne veux pas nécessairement dire longueur d'avance, mais est-ce que vous les connaissez mieux par le fait qu'ils ont évolué ici et donc ils ont peut-être une meilleure chance de faire partie de vos plans?
Mais est-ce que je les connais mieux? C'est sûr que je les connais mieux parce que j'ai mon réseau dans le RSEQ. Quand même, tous ces entraîneurs en chef, je les connais très bien, puis on se parle assez souvent. Alors, je les connais mieux. Est-ce que ça veut dire qu'ils ont une passe plus facile, directe pour le repêchage des Alouettes en 2024? Je dirais que non. J'ai toujours dit, par contre, qu'à talent égal, on va garder nos meilleurs effectifs chez nous. Et je l'ai fait dans le passé. L'année passée, dans la première ronde, si on se rappelle bien, on a choisi Ouguat, puis on a choisi Sutherland. Alors, on va toujours aller chercher les meilleurs joueurs disponibles. Mais, à un moment qu'on pense à l'interne que le talent est égal, c'est sûr qu'on va garder ces effectifs chez nous, sûr et certain.
Merci. Peut-être follow-up to you, Jason Maas. There's, like I said to Danny, there's about 20 players from Quebec in this combine this year. What have you seen from the players from Quebec during your time here that maybe can make you say that this guy maybe they have some qualities that are different or something like that?
Well, I think passion always comes through for Quebec players. Every time I've seen them play, you can tell they love football and they have a real passion for it. And Danny and I have not been shy about saying it. If it's even, you want to go with those kinds of guys, but they have to be better and in order to be in our building because we're looking for the best. But obviously, the province of Quebec has produced a lot of good CFL players, a lot of good football players in general. So you're always going to look.
Thank you.
Merci, Jean-François. Next question is from JC Abbott. Please go ahead, JC.
Hey, guys. You lost a couple of talented players to the NFL in Austin Mack and Lowell Uguak, but there was also a couple of other guys like a lot of people thought would get their shot that didn't in Mustafa Johnson and Reggie Stubblefield. Is it sort of a pleasant surprise to have those two guys back in the fold?
I guess, yeah, pleasant surprise. And obviously you're happy for Austin and Lowell. But, anytime we can retain players that have helped us win and the type of players those four gentlemen are, you're excited anytime you get to work with them again. So, I know it's always bittersweet for those guys who want to go down south and have an opportunity, but we welcome them with open arms back to our locker room. And they're a big part of what we did last year and the future plans that we have. They're a huge part.
Yeah, and I would say, JC, it's obviously a feather in our cap. Anytime you can have the season that we had, and let me just use the term graduate a few players to the next level, that's definitely a feather in our hat. And us as a scouting department, what we need to do is roll up our sleeves and go find the next Austin Mack and make sure that, we have a productive draft here that lays up ahead for us because we know that we lost a quality Canadian. So, these are the type of scenarios that you hope to live every single year. But we're happy for them. We're happy for the ones that have come back. We're happy for the nucleus that has chosen to re-up with us. And we're looking forward to what lays up ahead.
That defensive tackle spot has had a little bit of transition there. Obviously, Armando Sewell's gone, but you bring in a couple of veterans in Derek Wigan and Dylan Wynn. There's only two defensive tackles on the field at one time. I wonder how you imagine rotating those three guys with Mustafa in there, Wynn and Wigan.
Yeah, that's for our coaches to decide throughout training camp and how we implement them. I don't think you can ever have too many to begin with. So obviously we've done a good job of utilizing personnel, whether it's on offense, defense, or special teams. So the guys that contribute to the plans are always going to play and the cream will always rise to the top. But when you talk about, having depth at that position, we have it with the two guys we added and then obviously having Mustafa. And then obviously with the scouting department, they've been able to find players for us. So we look forward to everyone competing and then obviously playing team defense with whoever's in there.
Is that going to be a ratio spot for you guys with the addition of Wigan?
Ratio flexibility is what you always go for, in my opinion, during the offseason of trying to implement, being able to have as much flexibility as possible. So depending on how training camp does play out for you, if that's the way we want to go, we do it. But I think Wigan and Berglund definitely allow us to have flexibility at that position.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, JC. La prochaine question est de Théo Habib Bouéid. Je suis désolé si j'ai massacré le nom. Vas-y, Théo.
Non, ne vous en faites pas, vous l'avez bien prononcé. Alors, ce sera une question en français. J'ai vu passer que cette année-là, vous aviez réussi à retrouver je cite, de la stabilité au sein de votre équipe. Et c'était quelque chose que vous recherchiez, j'ai cru comprendre. Comment vous pensez que cela va affecter votre repêchage pendant le camp d'entraînement?
Théo, c'est sûr que pour avoir du succès, que ce soit au football ou dans n'importe quel autre domaine de travail, tu as besoin d'une organisation qui est stable, qui est bien alignée. C'est pas tout à fait ce qu'on avait dans le passé, les dernières années. Puis cette stabilité, depuis le 10 mars de l'année passée, on a commencé à le sentir avec l'achat de M. Pelado. Alors, avec cette stabilité, ça a amené un certain alignement. Puis ça nous a aidé énormément à notre succès cette année parce que on travaillait dans un domaine sain, puis il y avait beaucoup de paix. Puis tu peux être concentré sur ton rôle. Puis quand tu peux être dans ce genre d'état, c'est sûr que ça peut seulement aider dans ton succès. Puis justement, le fait qu'on est en train de le vivre de nouveau pour la deuxième année, ça peut seulement aider, pas seulement pour le repêchage, mais pour le camp d'entraînement, pour la saison qui s'en vient. Puis tout ce qu'on a déjà en place avec le fait qu'on était capable de garder notre noyau en place. On n'avait pas de noyau ici les 3 dernières années. Finalement, on l'a à cause de cette stabilité.
OK. Puis, sous question pour vous, pensez-vous que les effectifs que vous allez recruter au sein de votre équipe vont être réduits dû au fait que plusieurs joueurs sont là pour rester puisqu'ils seront assurés par un contrat?
Mais écoute, Théo, il y a rien qui est garanti dans la vie. Alors, il va y avoir des joueurs qu'on va repêcher, il va y avoir d'autres joueurs qu'on était capable de mettre sous contrat qui ont joué de l'autre côté de la frontière. On s'en va au camp. On a un camp de 3 semaines, 2 matchs en concours. Puis ça va être une bataille. Alors, c'est sûr qu'il faut que tu gagnes ton poste. C'est pas donné. Même si tu as un contrat de 2-3 ans, le contrat est seulement effectif. Le contrat va seulement en vigueur après le camp. Alors, il faut être prêt de compétitionner pendant 3 semaines. Il faut être prêt de compétitionner pendant les 2 matchs en concours. Puis à la fin de la deuxième match en concours, on va s'asseoir avec les entraîneurs, puis on va choisir les meilleurs effectifs pour l'édition 2024 des Alouettes de Montréal.
C'est très bien, je vous remercie.
Merci à vous.
Merci, Théo. We don't have any more questions lined up, but I may have lowered Justin Dunk's end mistakenly. So, Justin, do you have a question or no?
No, I'm all good, thanks.
So we don't have any more questions lined up. So thank you, guys. Thank you for joining us today. And next up are going to be the Ottawa Redblacks.
Merci.